Jujutsu Kaisen proves that you don't need a bunch of big titty anime girls for fan service because you can do the job with one white-haired, blue-eyed guy and make the fandom go gay and simp for him. And you already know who I'm talking about. Your anime daddy Satoru Gojo, the man whose birth alone was enough to shift the balance of the Jujutsu world, forcing cursed spirits to adapt just to survive in an era where he exists. And that's where the question comes in. Why and how is he that strong? But before we understand why Gojo is the strongest sorcerer, we need to understand Gojo himself. And to understand Gojo, we need to understand his power. The name of Gojo's curse technique is Limitless. It's an innate technique passed down through the Gojo clan. It gives the user the ability to manipulate space itself, and that single ability branches out into everything else he can do. The neutral state of this technique is infinity. Infinity takes the finite distance between Gojo and whatever is flying at him and divides that space an infinite number of times. Think of it like this. If you take the number 1 and keep dividing it by 2 over and over again, you'll get smaller and smaller numbers, getting closer and closer to 0. But no matter how many times you divide it, you will never actually reach 0. That's exactly what's happening here. The distance between Gojo and the attack keeps shrinking, but it never reaches 0, which means the attack never actually touches him. And here's what makes it genuinely terrifying. Infinity runs on its own, 24 hours a day, filtering threats in real time. It distinguishes between harmful and harmless things, which is why Gojo doesn't suffocate from oxygen being blocked out. The air gets through, the punch doesn't. It's essentially the world's most intelligent force field. Now that's just the neutral state. When Gojo starts putting cursed energy into the Limitless, he activates what's called Cursed Technique Lapse, Blue. At its core, Blue creates a powerful attraction, meaning Gojo creates a kind of negative space, and the space around it rushes to fill that gap. Everything gets pulled toward that single point, collapsing inward. That's why Blue doesn't just pull, it drags and crushes everything caught in it. And Gojo can also apply that same effect to himself. Instead of just pulling objects, he uses Blue to manipulate the space between him and a destination. He essentially creates a missing distance, or a gap, that shouldn't exist. As a result, the distance between where he is and where he wants to be collapses completely. That's why his movement looks like teleportation. Now, if Blue is attraction, then what happens when you reverse that? You get Cursed Technique Reversal, Red. To produce Red, Gojo has to use Reverse Curse Technique, a process so hard that even Gojo himself couldn't do it as a teenager. He only unlocked it for the first time after nearly dying in a fight against Toji, and instead of pulling, it pushes everything away with explosive force. Think of it like an energy blast that operates as a highly concentrated repulsive force, and its cursed energy output is at least twice that of Blue. But neither Blue nor Red is Gojo's strongest technique. That title belongs to Hollow Purple. Purple is the result of simultaneously activating the attraction of Blue and the repulsion of Red and letting them collide, creating an imaginary mass, something that shouldn't even exist. And when Purple moves forward, it doesn't just damage what it touches, it completely destroys everything in its path at an extreme level. Now, Limitless is a powerful technique, but this alone is not what makes Gojo the unstoppable force the Jujutsu world fears, because there are other techniques in JJK that could theoretically rival it, like Takaba's comedian and Hakari's gambling technique. So what elevates Gojo above everyone else who might carry a powerful technique? And the answer is his 6 eyes. The 6 eyes are not a curse technique. They're a physical trait, an inherited gift that only appears extremely rarely within the Gojo clan. In recorded history, no 2 users of the 6 eyes have ever existed at the same time, and Gojo is the first person in roughly 400 years to be born with both the Limitless and the 6 eyes simultaneously. That combination is the genetic lottery of Jujutsu sorcery. So what do the 6 eyes actually do? The most obvious thing is perception. The 6 eyes let Gojo see cursed energy in extraordinary detail, down to an atomic level. He can read an opponent's technique just by watching it in motion. He can differentiate between types of cursed energy, identify people by the unique signature of their energy, see kilometers away with perfect clarity, and famously see everything perfectly even while wearing a blindfold. And the blindfold isn't a style choice, by the way. It's a necessity, because the 6 eyes are always active, and keeping them fully uncovered for extended periods causes severe mental fatigue from processing too much information at once. But as impressive impressive as the perception is, the truly game-changing function of the six eyes is what they do to cursed energy efficiency. When the six eyes are present, the amount of cursed energy lost during any technique is almost zero. Not metaphorically zero, but close to actual zero. The six eyes allow Gojo to process and execute his techniques with such microscopic precision that the energy consumed is effectively less than what his body naturally regenerates on its own. That's why he can never run out of cursed energy under normal circumstances. And without the six eyes, the Limitless is still powerful but completely unsustainable. Other members of the Gojo clan have inherited the Limitless. None of them could master it the way Gojo does, because the calculations required to run these techniques are so complex and so energy intensive that the brain of a normal sorcerer simply can't process them without burning out. The six eyes solve every single one of those problems at once. But even with Limitless and the six eyes together, Gojo isn't truly unstoppable. There's still one missing piece that completes his arsenal, which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, his reverse curse technique. Most sorcerers use reverse curse technique for healing or regenerating the body. It's rare and difficult, and most sorcerers who can do it can only apply it to themselves. Gojo does something that even among reverse curse technique users is completely unique. He runs a constant automated reverse curse technique through his body at all times, specifically to protect his own brain. Because running infinity 24/7 is not just an energy problem. The technique is so cognitively demanding that without active maintenance, it would literally fry Gojo's brain from sustained use. The mental load of processing an infinite spatial calculation every single moment would destroy any normal mind. Gojo circumvents this entirely by keeping reverse curse technique running as a passive background process that continuously heals and refreshes his brain as the technique demands of it. And in actual combat, the reverse curse technique goes further. When Gojo takes damage, which is rare, he can heal at an extraordinary rate. During his fight with Sukuna, he was caught inside Malevolent Shrine and forced to regenerate at maximum output just to keep pace with the incoming slashes. He can even rebuild his burned-out cursed technique using this. Sukuna can do this as well, but they are the only two. It's the kind of technique that requires a level of precision so extreme that attempting it recklessly, as we see in that fight, risks permanent brain damage. So in short, without the reverse curse technique, he can't maintain infinity continuously. And without the positive energy of reverse curse technique, he can't use reversal red, and without that, he can't use hollow purple either. But now, I want to take a step back from the mechanics, because there's a dimension to Gojo's strength that no power breakdown fully captures, and it comes from one of the most important conversations in the entire series. After Gojo and Geto's paths diverged, the two former best friends met one last time before fully becoming enemies, and in that moment, Geto asked Gojo, "Are you the strongest because you're Satoru Gojo, or are you Satoru Gojo because you're the strongest?" What Geto is really asking is this: are you strong because of who you are, your will, your choices, your character, or are you only who you are because you were born with power? This is a question about whether greatness is earned or inherited, and the narrative of JJK leans into this tension constantly. Almost everyone who knows Gojo defines him by his strength first. His students describe him as the strongest before anything else. The higher-ups see him as a weapon, and Gojo's choice to become a teacher, to invest in the next generation, instead of just existing as an unbeatable weapon, is the closest thing to an answer the series gives. It's him trying to make Satoru Gojo mean something more than a power level, trying to make the name stand for something beyond the techniques. And then, in the cruelest possible way, the manga gives us a test of this question that nobody asked for. After Gojo's death, Yuta used Kenjaku's technique to transfer his consciousness into Gojo's body. He had access to the Limitless, Six Eyes, and Unlimited Void. He did everything that Gojo could do, technically speaking. And he still couldn't beat Sukuna the way Gojo nearly did, because Gojo's strength isn't just his abilities, it's the mastery built over a lifetime. The techniques weren't just tools Gojo picked up, they were extensions of him, shaped by a lifetime of being him. And Yuta could borrow the hardware, but he couldn't replicate the software. And that, perhaps more than anything, answers Geto's question. Maybe Gojo was born the strongest, but he became truly unstoppable because he was Satoru Gojo. And you can copy the techniques or borrow the body, but you can never become him. Now, I want to hear from you about Geto's question to Gojo. What do you think the answer is? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to see what you think.